Continuing on Law Weekly, the battle for the presidency of the Nigerian Bar Association gathers momentum as 15 branch chairmen in the Southwest met in Lagos at the weekend under the aegis of the Egbe Amofin. They say they've endorsed the candidacy of Mr. Dele Adesina ahead of the elections in July. Another splinter group of the Egbe Amofin also at the weekend met in Ibadan. Law Weekly gathered that they set up a reconciliation committee to be headed by Chief Adegboyega Awomolo. Also showing on the program, former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Olisa Agbakoba, takes steps to combat the slow dispensation of justice. He calls it the Speed of Justice Project. That's the lineup for today's program. I am Shola Sheeli. First, let's check out the top stories we tracked at the courts.
We'll begin with a very interesting report of the Federal High Court in Abuja, which last week ordered the federal and state governments to release funds meant for the judiciary to chief judges in line with the constitutional provision. In the suit filed by the Judiciary Workers Union, Justice Adeniyi Adetokunbo Ademola ruled that the piecemeal payment of funds in amount due to the judiciary is unconstitutional, null and void, and should be stopped forthwith. Justice Adetokunbo Ademola also gave a perpetual injunction restraining the federal and state governments from further contravening the provisions of the Constitution with regards to first-line funding of the judiciary. It's a judgment that's been celebrated by the judiciary workers and stakeholders as it is capable of guaranteeing the independence of the judiciary. Still talking money, the Supreme Court in the unanimous judgment last Friday ordered that Muhammad Abacha, the son of the late head of state, General Sani Abacha, should go back to the Abuja High Court to face trial on the 123-count charge preferred against him for allegedly receiving stolen money belonging to the federal government. The Attorney General of the Federation, exercising his powers under Section 174 of the Nigerian Constitution, had filed 4 different criminal charges containing 123 counts against Muhammad Abacha and one Abubakar Bagudu relating to conspiracy, receiving stolen property dishonestly, and concealing such stolen property. Mr. Abacha, however, challenged the jurisdiction of the court, claiming that no offence had been disclosed in the supporting proof of evidence and no prima facie case had been established against him to warrant his trial. Still on money, the former managing director of a defunct Intercontinental Bank plc, Mr. Erastus Akingbola, last week challenged the jurisdiction of the Lagos High Court to register a 212.2 billion naira judgment delivered against him by a London court. The London court had ordered Akingbola to pay Access Bank the money for some sharp and fraudulent practices committed when it was in charge of the defunct Intercontinental Bank, which has now been taken over by Access Bank. In order to enforce the judgment in Nigeria, Access Bank had approached the Lagos High Court, which through a motion ex parte ordered Mr. Akingbola to pay Access Bank plc the judgment sum of 212.2 billion naira. On the 18th of February, another judge of the Lagos High Court will rule on the application by Mr. Akingbola, challenging the jurisdiction of the court. From money to politics, a federal high court sitting in Abuja last week sacked the national executive of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, led by Mr. Victor Ume as national chairman and Sani Shinkafi as national secretary. Justice Abdul Kafarati declared that both men could not continue to hold office in violation of the constitution of the party, which stipulates a maximum tenure of 8 years. The suit challenging the tenure was filed by Mr. Maxi Oku with 4 others, who contended that they were in violation of Article 18, subsection 2 of the party's constitution. The court has, however, directed the Independent National Electoral Commission to deal with Mr. Maxi Oku and his executive as the duly elected national officers of APGA. The Jos High Court has fixed Friday, January 24, to hear the suit filed by the All Progressives Congress, APC, to stop the scheduled January 30 local government elections in Plateau State. Justice DJ Mann at the hearing last Friday said the shift in date was to enable all the parties in the matter to file their processes. The APC joined the State Attorney General, the Plateau State House of Assembly, and the Plateau State Independent Electoral Commission as defendants in the case. And we round off in the U.S. with news that the Federal High Court has upheld the life sentence on Farouk Abdulmutalab, the Nigerian man who tried to set off an explosive in 2009 while aboard a U.S. airliner. The Sixth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeal rejected arguments by the man known as the underwear bomber that the sentence was cruel and that U.S. District Judge Nancy Edmonds had erred by letting him represent himself at trial despite doubts about his competency. Mr. Abdulmutalab challenged the sentence despite having pleaded guilty in October 2011, a day after his trial began. Writing for a three-judge panel, Circuit Judge David McKeague said that a life sentence was appropriate given the nature of the crime and the defendant, having committed an act of terrorism, communicated a desire to undertake more.
Welcome back. Last week, we talked about the delay in court proceedings and some likely solutions. In this interview, we offer another perspective. My guest, Mr. Olisa Agbakoba, is a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, a member of the National Judicial Council (NJC), and a senior advocate of Nigeria. Let me start by getting your assessment of the judiciary. How do you think that the whole sector performed in 2013?
Average.
Why average?
Because the courts are very slow.
Yes, that's not a new thing.
No. What do you mean? You're asking me how did they fare in 2013. So I'm not going to say how did they fare in 2012 to compare.
Yes.
If you were a patient and you came to me as a doctor and I took 9 years to treat your malaria, what would you say? It's average. Many factors cause it. The lack of proper funding, lack of modern rules of court, even the fall in standards of lawyering, fall in the quality of judges, corruption, all these things add up. I'm not going to give the judiciary, I'll be, in fact, I'm being magnanimous to even say average.
It was actually beyond poor, below average.
I would say so. We're just doing a review of our cases in our law firm, and we found that it's taken about 6 to 7 years to put a case through the High Court. Add another 5 in the Court of Appeal and another 3 to 4. So an averagely complex case, 12 years. So you cannot...
Start to finish, from the start at the High Court
yes,
to the whole appeal process.
Yes, that's quite slow.
But like I also said, it's not a new thing.
No, don't say it's not a new thing. We want change.
Yes.
We're in the period of transformational agendas. So I'd like to see a judicial transformational agenda.
Everybody wants change, but what should we do to have change?
Well, personally, what I've done is to launch what I call the Speed of Justice program. I've written to the CJN. I've written to all the CJs of 36 states. I have written to the president of the NIC, National Industrial Court, and to the president of the CJ of the FCT. Okay. Just saying, let's use this here to review how lawyers and judges work in the judicial system. And I just gave a number of examples about how we can make more progress. For instance, I said in the letter, without looking at the subject very closely, must a judge actually deliver a decision in open court by sitting down?
So all that 3 to 4 hours of reading their judgment, you think we can do away with it?
Clearly. I mean, in the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court, that is now part of the standard practice. Okay. So I remember once in Justice Oyewale's court, when he was assigned as one of the EFCC judges, 5 hours to read the judgment. That's waste of judicial time. I'm not blaming him, because that's the culture. I remember when Justice Abutu was dealing with the Hebrew EFCC applications for bail. He sat from 9 till about 5 p.m. There were about 17 senior advocates. There was no consent for case management. And everybody drone on and on and on. So little things can create change. I'm always concerned about why we lawyers have to send our registrars to the registries of the various high courts and wait in line to pay cash. Do you know how much cash is paid into the Federal High Court registry every day? And even the danger of somebody coming with a gun to steal the money. Sometimes the receipts aren't enough, so they will bunch 10 cases under one receipt, and we go and make photocopies. Come on.
So that everybody gets a copy of the payment.
Absolutely. No, we can do things, but it's little changes will have an impact on the larger judicial picture and make us go faster. So one, the way we file, I think has to change. We should be able to file online. Every lawyer should every year renew his online registration with the courts and then pay for that service. So if you have a case, you sit in your chambers, type out your claim, you file, and you paid.
So there is already a process in place to do this, just that we're not doing it.
Yeah, when I amended the Federal Court rules for Justice Sukeje, I inserted Order 58, dealing with communication systems, communication center, but it has never been activated. So there's a system in place to actually modify.
Is that system in place also at the State High Court?
No, it isn't.
Okay, so they should introduce this.
They should introduce. But if we all agree to look at the problem in all our different ways, the lawyers, the judges, then you will find that just changing attitudes. For instance, when we go to court and a matter would not advance or a judge would not sit, registrar, judge is not sitting. Take dates for mention.
Yes.
I remember years ago in the Damala court when the Court of Appeal was in Bodilon, and one of the very senior advocates requested a date for mention. He was politely told that there's nothing like mention. Mention is that you are not coming to work. So the culture of mention absorbs 30% of wasted judicial time. Has the vice chair of the NGC's, no, not the stakeholders committee set up by the former CJN, when he set up the stakeholders committee to look at the judicial process, I was the vice chair of the Committee on Speedy Dispensation of Justice. We found that 70% of cases are frivolous.
This was how many years ago?
This is too long ago, under Mustafa, CJN. So Mustafa retired maybe 18 months ago, I would say. It's a shame that we didn't carry on from that, great, innovation that he introduced. But I was very shocked. 70% of cases. And there's always this argument between lawyers and judges who is at fault for causing the delay. The judge is master of his court. So he's the one who to manage the courts. I know the best example of judicial speed that I've seen concerned a municipal house that was owing money, and therefore an application in the nature of bank winding up was brought. But the judge said, look, I know that this municipal house may be owing you, but it's a going concern. Therefore, the application to wind up failed. The case was dismissed. 10 minutes.
10 minutes.